One of my favorite romantic songs is Der Erlkönig by Franz Shubert on a ballad from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. This is a very, very intense song and expresses a romantic mood and romantic way of thinking that is very important to me and that can be used to understand better the Caprice, Opus 26, number 4, by Matteo Carcassi. Those two songs have very similar opening motives. Schubert and Carcassi has this one. Under a very special romantic point of view and by a romantic technique, we could actually make the Caprice of Carcassi similar to the song of Schubert. Der Erlkönig by Franz Shubert. It's about that ballad from Goethe where a father is doing a wild ride with his son in his arm in order to save him from disease, from illness. And the boy, is seeing the elf's king, an evil king who wants to tear the boy on his side, actually kill him. And that's what unfortunately happens in that song. It's a very strong expression as a story, but as well as a typical romantic way of thinking and way of making art. We can use a very special romantic technique that gets inspiration from that song by Schubert and by a technique of Novalis, which is called Romanticising. Novalis is a very early German romantic poet and died very young actually, and he wrote this. By giving the common a high meaning, the ordinary a mysterious appearance, the known the dignity of the unknown, the finite an infinite appearance, I romanticize it. So let's take our Caprice by Carcassi and romanticize it. In Schubert's song and Goethe's ballad, we have three actors. It's the father rushing on the horse, the son, and the elf's king. And all those, while talking in the song, are characterized by the accompaniment and by the melody as well, obviously. In Schubert, we don't have really three personalities, but there are two of them. The first one is this agitation motive in the bass, answered by this high-flying melody. The length ratio is 1 bar and 3 bars, the longer melody at the beginning. Now, let's give them a name. I would call this one the man on earth, so to say, more abstract reason. And the higher melody, let's call the Transcendence. Something that is real in life of people but can't be explained by reason, at least in the Romantic epoch. Now let's come to the tangible, touchable things in the Caprice by Carcassi. First thing is the form. We have an AABA form, so the A minor part, which is developed in 3 quite similar, at least beginning parts and sections, and 1 B section which uses the same melody but changes to C major, and this is the B part. What is interesting that the AABA form generally in all the pieces is respected in the single sections as well. We will see that. The very first A part has 3 sections, A, B and B. As said before, we have the bass, mankind, and the transcendence, so to say. This is repeated twice, and in the B part, in the third part of this first A section, there is in some way the mixture of both, the struggle of both. and a long pickup in order to return to the next A part. So here our personalities, our actors are exposed. The second A part is identical to the first one. A2 is very similar to A1. There is inserted anyway a C part, and this one is in C major for the first time. We have so it's not minor anymore. To some way, the transcendence and the life on earth, the reason, come together to some point, discussing in a less agitated, less minor way, even if at the end the struggle, the Unruhe, the restlessness of people on earth is still prevailing. This A2 part ends with a full rest, which is interesting because that prepares the listener to what's coming in the next B part. Here now, actually, we are in C major. What is nice is that we already were in C major in the A2 part, which ended anyway in which ended in the dominant of A minor in E major. And in this point, so we are coming not really prepared to C major, where we have quite the same melodies. Now in C major, but the high-flying, in some way mystic melody that we had in the A part now is much lower, as the bass is a bit higher, not starting from A, but it's starting from C. And so the melody in the soprano is starting from A, going to F, back to C. So it's quite nearer. To some way, the life on earth and the transcendence is already united in the person. This could be the idea playing this. And then there is a third way of thinking. We have some internal life of the people. And this could be this melody. Which is in there. That's an idea that one could have, and which causes us to play out this inner melody, which is technically speaking the index finger of your right hand. So that's a challenge, but a nice one. Formally, it's just as the A parts were, A, and then a different third part, which I called here C, because this C part is a bit different than the B parts were before, because here we have a 2-bar phrasing. We have the soprano melody this time going up, the other times it was going down. Now it's going up. The answer of the bass. And this melody is quite new because it was not the same in the other parts. And it's concluding how to say. It's concluding that first struggle, but now in C major, so there's a union between earth and transcendence. But that's not the end of the B part, because it's developed more than the other parts before. The apparent beauty and union between those two aspects of human life get troubled in this next D part. And this fight, this unrestlessness that's coming up here is described not only in different harmony. There's a diminished chord, so very harsh. In Schubert, der Erlkönig, there is that diminished chord too, in the point where the boy is shouting out loudly because he feels the Erlkönig touching him and bringing him away on the other side. And, well, this chord is quite dramatic in this point too. But now follows. For turning back to A minor, passing in E7. And turning back to our normal state of human life, which is in the repetition of the A part. Here is some development and some possibility to discuss actually this romantic problem between normal life and what could be beyond. Yeah. The last A section is quite long as well and has a final attached. But anyway, it begins quite with the repetition of the very first A part, differing only in the B parts, because the B parts are repeated twice without any, point of, conclusion. And here it must go on in some way, and it does, with this chord. A minor, we are going to, and this is the Neapolitan, a chord I already talked about in the Caprice before. Mozart once used that chord to illustrate death in an aria by Pamina in The Magic Flute. So it can be a chord that is very, very significant, and it brings us in a new harmonic range. So here is another aspect of trouble coming in. Which is coming anyway to a conclusion, and the conclusion is, well, we can't actually conclude and resolve the dilemma, because our trouble in earth life is still there, and the transcendence might be there as well and affects us, but it does not come to any real conclusion. This is in the finale actually expressed very well by the continuing A in the bass. This pedal point actually has some significance. This pedal A actually, tranquilizes in some way the music, because harmonically with that foundation we are not moving on anymore. There's not really the discussion that we had before. So there's calm coming in, while still the waters are very troubled because the movement is still keeping up. So, as we struggle, as we move, as we try to discuss, we can't move anywhere. It's a bit desperate, but interesting. The end tries to break out really violently with that doubled bass melody in the octave. The piece clearly is concluded, but the discussion and the sentimental situation, the romantic situation, is not at all. Okay, this could be the idea behind that piece. The different sections and the different expression that might be in here could be very concrete in the mind of the player, as I invented this story, so to say, and this possibility to make that apparently normal piece, which very often is taken for a study. It's not, it's a caprice. But anyway, it has obviously aspects of a study and it is made for learning. Guitarist, it's not too difficult. It anyway has the possibility for very strong romantic expression. And I hope this video helped you to get some idea how to approach these pieces, this one or pieces like that apparently are not too complicated, normal, ordinary, and you can find something extraordinary in them if you romanticize them. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked it. If you did, leave me a thumb up and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.